Hi, everybody. For anyone who's watching this right now, we're just getting, we're going to be getting our sort of embed codes up and stuff like that. So we'll be back in a second. Enjoy this beautiful view of the Eagle Nebula while we talk. There was a lot of pressure to get rolling this week. So
pressure's good. That means people want to watch.
I know. People love their astronomy. Can't blame them.
I'll get a virtual star party posted up.
Okay, great. I will. I'll get the URL for the live.
Yeah, as soon as I get the link, I'll share it as well.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. There we go.
Sweet, thank you.
All right, and then there's the. Don't worry about the YouTube one.
All right, it's on VSP.
Anyone who's watching, this is the Eagle Nebula. We'll get started in just a couple of seconds. Just need to get some preparation stuff done. But I got the impression that if I waited any longer, people would kill me. So, so we're going to be running a star party tonight. I think we've only got one. We've got 2 telescopes right now. We've got a 3rd telescope that's just in the process of getting alignment, but we didn't want to wait. So we'll be bringing that online once Stuart gets his stuff organized there. So yeah, now you can ask us any questions you want. You can post questions into the Star Party page. You can post questions into the Google Plus Hangout page where this is happening. You can also post questions over on YouTube if you're watching this there, and you can also post questions on Twitter with the hashtag StarParty. And we will take requests, and we'll explain the gear, and hang out and look at some stars. And we'll try to explain as much as we can as we go along. So, so joining me tonight, so we've got Gary Gonella, who is hiding behind his Eagle Nebula right now, but he's there. And we've actually had just an absolute train wreck of technical problems tonight. So I warn you. This might be not one of our greatest ones. But yeah, so Gary is hiding behind the Eagle Nebula. We've got Mark Behrendt, who's in Chicago, who has a star cluster going on. Who just dropped?
Peter just dropped.
Peter just dropped, okay. Peter Lake just dropped, but he's out of New Mexico right now, but he's completely clouded out. We've got Ray Sanders, who's going to be bringing the astronomy knowledge for us. Also, he can be found blogging at Dear Astronomer. We've got Scott Lewis, who is our, how do we describe you? You're the bald astronomer, right?
The bald astronomer, producer.
Yeah, producer of the Star Party. So Scott is the guy who's been sort of helping all the astronomers kind of work through their technical issues and get through it. And we've got Stuart Forman, who's in the darkness right now. He's set up in San Francisco, and he's got his sort of a really cool new method of capturing objects. And he did a test run for us just yesterday, and it was just gorgeous. We had a whole bunch of deep sky objects, the Dumbbell Nebula, the Ring Nebula, the Great Globular Cluster in Hercules, M51 Galaxy, and it all just looked gorgeous. So hopefully we can kind of have a recreation of the stuff that we saw last night, because it was all in color. It was really nice. So it was a good counter to Gary's high level of detail. So I'm really looking forward to it. So like I said, once again, you can ask us questions on Google+, on Twitter, on YouTube, and we'll try to sort of answer all of the questions.
For Twitter, use the hashtag StarParty.
Yeah.
So it will pop up in our Hangouts.
Cool. And then, Ray, you're going to jump in and bring the science, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Very cool. Okay.
After, well, I don't know if you can see that. The bandage. After all the work that I put into this weekend getting this new studio up, I'm definitely bringing the science.
Cool. Awesome. And then, so just to sort of let you know the sort of series of great plans that we had, Chris Ridgway, he's in Indiana. He's rained out. We've got Sharon, who's in Malaysia and had just the best view of the sun like an hour ago. He's rained out. Yeah, it's been a rough night tonight so far. But I could see that people wanted to sort of see the views. So we'll get cracking. So Gary,
Yes.
what do we got here?
Eagle Nebula, and it's M16.
And I guess for people who aren't aware of it, Eagle Nebula, this is the very classically well-known nebula. This is the place you can see the pillars of creation. Oh, this is cool. And so Scott's going to show us where we find it.
All right, over here you'll see just above Sagittarius. And if I can actually zoom in here, that'd be great.
And Sagittarius is great. It looks like a teapot. So if you look off to for the people in the northern hemisphere, if you look to the southern horizon in the sort of middle of the summer, you can see this teapot-looking constellation. Look at it. It is a teapot. No question that it is a teapot.
But is it short and stout?
Yeah, and so I'm fairly north, so it doesn't get very high above the horizon for me, really just above the tree line all summer long. But for if you're down in the U.S. and more south, then I guess you'll see it a little higher. And so just above the teapot is M16. Keep going. Can we zoom in more?
I will zoom in more.
There we go. So that's the Eagle Nebula. And so this is what Gary's showing us right now live. And you can see those dust lanes right in the middle there. Those are the pillars of creation. And you can see them over in Gary. So I've switched back to Gary's live view, and you can see the same thing. You can see the pillars of creation there.
That's the famous Hubble picture.
Yeah. And I actually had no idea that we would be able to see it the first time that we did the view, but we were all pretty impressed. So Ray, how's your knowledge of the Eagle Nebula and what the pillars are?
Well, the pillars are star-forming gas and dust regions, and that type of nebula is an open cluster. Although it's a bit larger, it's in the same category of stuff like the Pleiades, where it's just a big star-forming region. One of the other things that people like to refer to it as is an emission nebula. If we had a telescope with a proper filter on it, Gary, you're not running an H2 filter, are you? You're just doing monochrome?
No, it's hydrogen alpha.
Hydrogen, okay.
I've got it. Yeah, 12 nanometer HA.
Okay. And like Fraser was saying earlier, there's a famous Hubble Space Telescope image that's actually imaged by one of the professors that I take classes with at ASU, Dr. Skoing, and then a retired professor, Jeff Hester. They did that back in 1995, those famous pillars of creation that everybody sees. I'll try and pull that image up and screen share it here in a second so everybody can see that.
So this is zoomed in a little bit. You can see them coming out a little bit more right there.
Oh yeah, that's great, Gary.
Yeah, that came out nice, didn't it? Okay, now we... And there's the whole thing.
That's great. That's really nice. And so, for anyone who was with us last week, there's actually a much nicer view of the nebula. And Gary, you were saying that it's just higher on the sky this week, right?
Yes, absolutely. I've got light pollution in that direction, plus some tall trees in that direction. So, I think I was shooting through the top of the trees last week.
That would create some very different pillars in your image.
Yeah, and don't astronomers think that the pillars have actually been destroyed? And oh, there we go. Yeah, that's nice, Ray. That's what Hubble brings in, right?
Well, I was going to say, basically, what everyone's saying is that given the distance and given the volatility, that, yeah, chances are if you could fly the Enterprise there, you probably wouldn't see the same pillars that you see in these Hubble photos. It'd be kind of much more diffuse and blown away by now.
Right, because it's around 6,500 light years away. It's not very far.
No, it's pretty much within our cosmic background, or cosmic backyard, not background. That's something entirely different.
And this,
but yeah, it's a really short distance on a cosmological term. So yeah, if we went out there with this volatile area, most likely because of how relatively fast light goes based on these distances, it would most likely have been blown away by now.
Well, on these types of nebulas and stuff, one of the other ones that always interests me too is, we actually, I shouldn't say a blanket statement, but my favorite, being the Orion Nebula, is only about 400 light years away. So that's another one that is kind of like, oh, wow, that one will probably be a little bit different than what we're seeing, right now.
Yeah, and I think that Pamela always likes to describe that the Pleiades, the Orion Nebula, and the Eagle Nebula are all different examples of the region of the sort of star-forming regions of gas and dust that a place like our solar system came out of. And so you can kind of see these different sort of ages of these clusters. Orion is sort of all these stars really forming. A place like Pleiades is where it's been a little further down the road, where the stars are kind of separated and a lot of that gas and dust is dissipated in between them, and then you can get like a cluster of stars, like an open cluster of stars, like what Mark is actually is actually showing right now. That's sort of the far future. And where we are now with our sun, we don't even know where the stars are that we formed with anymore. They're just too spread out across the across the galaxy now.
No, that's absolutely right. That trying to figure out the star cluster that our sun was formed in is anybody's guess. I mean, we can kind of look around our backyard, stuff within a few light years, and try and figure it out. I mean, there's a few, type G stars within a few light years, but as to whether or not those were in the same cluster, whether or not the conspiracy theorists are right, and there's a distant 1.2, 1.5 light year distant brown dwarf companion to our sun as part of that cluster, it's anybody's guess. I think WISE is pretty much ruling that one out, but hey, it's trying to figure out the history of our solar system is a little difficult since, well, we weren't there.
So have you got something queued up next, Gary? Did you want to go somewhere next? Where is this object in the galaxy? Where is that object in the galaxy compared to us? I guess it's towards the disk of the Milky Way, because Sagittarius is actually in the Milky Way, right? Towards the center of the Milky Way.
Yes. Sorry, I was muted. I'm going to try to stay in this area because my scope isn't calibrated, and I'll move over to M17 now.
Okay.
Hey, Fraser, real quick while he's doing that, I did a little more reading up on Eagle Nebula because I wasn't sure what you were mentioning about them being destroyed, but it turns out there's some new studies that have been done with the Spitzer Space Telescope that think that a nearby supernova just wiped out the pillars, and that astronomers a couple of hundred years from now will probably just see it poof, just one day they'll go to look there and there won't be anything.
So I see a bunch of people are commenting on the event, the event where we sort of said that we're going to be doing the hangout, and I'll try to watch that as well. We actually have no way to bring that into our comment tracker, so if you look through that kind of near the end, I posted that I said if you want to ask us questions, we're taking them over here, and there's a link. So if you click that, you'll still be able to watch the video again there, and we'll be able to handle it there, because there's actually comments being generated over on YouTube, on Google+, on the event page. There's a bunch of different places, so it's really hard to stay on track of them all. And so if you can go to one of the designated traps that we've designed for you, then we'll be able to see the comments. And if we're not responding to your comments and questions, we just don't see them. So
yeah, I'm trying to track everybody down and catch up to all the comments, but there are many places that we're
yeah, it's one of the problems. So I'm going to go over to Mark for a second here. So Mark, what are you showing us?
I've got a slight view of M29, which is an open star cluster. It's
eastern skies. If you see at the bottom of my image, there's a lot of haze and noise. That's the light pollution from O'Hare Airport bleeding up into my image.
And I think what's really important to kind of get across here is, like, if you were watching us last week, we had this beautiful, just stunning image of the moon that just stayed rock solid in the hangout with a few airplanes going past for the whole hangout, and it was just beautiful. And so this was the same telescope. That was Mark's telescope last week. And I think it's really important to just show this week, you know, because he's got such light polluted skies, it's really hard to see a lot of the fainter objects. This is a fairly bright star cluster, but you know, we're not seeing a lot in his view, and this is just the downside of where Mark lives.
Yeah, even the brightest stars are still, you know, pale in comparison to, you know, looking at something as huge and as bright as the moon. You know, my photography teacher always told me, when taking pictures of the moon, make sure you expose for the light that's on your target, and your target's in direct sunlight there. So you always have to use a very fast shutter speed, very, you know, stop-down aperture. Whereas, you know, this image I have up now is a 10-second image, whereas I was doing 100th of a second images of the moon.
Yeah.
So orders of magnitude.
Yeah. So I think, unfortunately, we're sort of pushing the limits of what your telescope can do tonight. But hopefully we're going to have Stuart online in a second. Oh, and Gary's slewing, so you can see the lines with Gary's telescope as it's slewing, as it's moving around. So what are we looking at now? This was M17, is that right?
Yeah, this is the Swan. That's just a 1 second, so I just do a 1 second exposure so I can get it framed. And then I'll do a 10, and then when we're looking at that, I'll do a longer.
So where is it, Scott, from M16 to M17?
It's not very far at all. I mean, pull in here, pull back M17.
You're pretty much in kind of the same neighborhood as the Eagle neighborhood. You're just a little bit lower in the sky and just a smidge to the west.
Right. There's the Eagle that we were just at. Pull up there, and there's the Omega Nebula at M17.
So it's down about a degree or so, right? From maybe more. So astronomers measure the sky. Yeah, is that 2 degrees?
So it's at declination -16, and Eagle Nebula, let's see here, is at -13, so about 3-ish, 2.5. 3.
Yeah, so it's about 3 degrees lower in the sky for Gary right now. So it's going to be looking through a little more atmosphere. It's going to be not as clear as it would be next week. It's going to be a lot higher up. And that's what I was saying with the Eagle Nebula. We had a much higher view this week, so it's just looking a lot better. Let's take a look, though. Oh, that's beautiful. Look at that.
That's the 10-second shot.
Oh, that's nice.
I'm doing a 60-second right now. Let me stretch it a little bit.
Now, I've had a couple of people asking if we could see that new nova that was discovered just like a couple of days ago. It's in Sagittarius.
Yeah, I got somebody mentioned that also, and I don't think it's up high enough. It's lower in Sagittarius, and the little bit of look that I got to do, I think it's behind the trees for me right now.
Okay.
And I saw it too late. I didn't have a chance to look all the information up on it.
Now, Mark, is Saturn going to come out from behind that tree for you? Or is it down for the night?
It's down for the night. It was pretty low. I had about a 10-second view of it when I was setting up my scope, but that was, you know, almost 3 hours ago.
Right.
So it's down pretty far now, probably on the western horizon, pretty low.
Yeah, and again, you know, we sort of get what we get, right? So the moon is going to be up for Mark in about another probably hour or so, although I don't know if he'll still be around. But right now, I don't know if Scott, if you want to show where Saturn and Mars are right now, even for like us on the West Coast, they're really low on the horizon and just, you know, getting very low day after day.
Yeah, I was going to say Mars is pretty. Oh, go ahead, Fraser.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, Mars is down pretty much now. Saturn is getting close to the sun as well. Jupiter and Venus are now morning objects. So all through the fall, we had great views of, and the winter, we had great, amazing views of Jupiter and Venus, but now they're they're down. So they're in the morning. Although maybe we should get Ahmed involved and see if he can get us a view. But it's actually morning for Ahmed in Turkey right now.
Let's say come winter time, I should be able to get Jupiter okay. Unfortunately, astronomy doesn't go by our schedule; it goes by the schedule it wants to.
I know. So there's Saturn and Mars, and they're in Virgo right now, and very low on the horizon. And that's for the West Coast right now. Following Leo, so you can see how Leo is starting to go into the horizon now too. So now we're seeing the summer objects. Yeah. So a couple of people were asking, what's the software that Scott's using? He's using a piece of software called Stellarium, which is open source, free software you can use. It works on Linux, works on Windows, works on Mac. It's a wonderful piece of software. It's my absolute favorite piece of software.
Another great thing to remember too is you can download star packs while you're there too. So you get it. There's also additional software inside the program that you can get more data as you're going through. It's real easy to just drag around, as you can see with my mouse. You can Control F to find, just have a little go-to, and you can find objects and, just get to know the night sky. It's like having your own star map, but in your computer when the skies are cloudy. Because if it's not cloudy, go outside. It's beautiful. You get to know the sky, but it's something you can do at any time, even when it's daylight out.
Yeah.
I was also going to say one of the other nice things about Stellarium is, too, because of the fact that it's open source and it's freely available, a lot of the time when there's new comet discoveries, people can actually write in code that people can download and plug into Stellarium so they can see where things like comets are, or like Scott was saying, some of the additional star libraries, you can track asteroids. I believe that there's also plugins to where you can track the Hubble and ISS and some of the other stuff that you can look up on Heavens Above for space junk or satellites, iridiums, that type of thing.
So here's Peter's view. I love this. So Peter's got a really cool all-sky camera going on at his facility in New Mexico. And so he's in Australia, but he actually can control his observatory through the internet, and so you can see the clouds. I see some stars, though.
Yeah, it's kind of broken cloud. It was beautiful and clear about an hour before dusk, but yeah, it's kind of clouded over just as we got started, which is unfortunate today.
Fraser, I actually have an image, but my software keeps crashing, so I'm trying a different software, just letting you know.
Sure. No pressure, Stuart. It's not like we didn't say that you were going to be the star of the show tonight.
Yeah, I know.
I'm amazed that this even happens every night, every Sunday, every time. But this is astronomy. It's funny. I mean, this is what it's like, right? I mean, sometimes you have an amazing night and the skies are really clear and the objects you want are up, and other nights it's just not there for you. So
all you do is fight the equipment.
You fight the equipment, yeah. So I've had a request for M11. What's that? What's M11? Is that nearby?
Yeah, I believe it should be up. Let me take a look.
That's the wild duck cluster.
Yeah.
And that's another one like kind of like M5 and I think M13, where it's just one of those big balls of stars.
Jonas Cain asked if Andromeda's up. It's not. Andromeda was up in the wintertime, but it's down now. So it's stunning. I mean, when we get it, it's beautiful. But unfortunately, it's not up this time of year.
Yeah, this time of year, you wind up catching it. According to my location here in Arizona, it's just clearing the horizon, but it would be so low, for anybody else that you wouldn't even want to bother imaging it. But by about, I'd say 4 o'clock in the morning, and of course that's where a lot of the objects that are notably winter objects. In the summer they'll be early morning objects, and as time goes on, they'll start rising earlier and earlier. So. Yeah, unfortunately, right now at 10 o'clock at night, not really visible.
Same with you, Ryan.
Do you see something off my screen? What do you see?
I'm seeing you.
Okay, hang on.
Still you. Now you're muted. There we go.
You see?
Yep.
You see M13?
Yep.
Okay, that's M13.
Nice.
I'm using the Canon software instead of Backyard EOS.
You're doing it. Okay, so you're using the Canon utility, or are you actually?
Canon utility, and I'm using Google Screen Share.
Right.
For those who are kind of new, I figured I'd just jump in real quick and explain. A lot of people might hear us throwing around stuff like M5, M11, M13, M42, M51, and might not know exactly what we're talking about. And all of these M blah, 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 there's a little over 100 of them. They're the Messier catalog, and they're objects that an astronomer searching for comets actually started cataloging as not comets. So every time he'd fire up his telescope and look in the sky and try and find comets, as a matter of fact, I don't even know if Messier actually found any comets, but he's found well over 100 objects in the night sky. Some of them are, clusters, some are nebula, some are galaxies, just different objects that aren't comets. And, I think from everything I've been told, frustrated him during his times of work.
So this is great. So just to sort of explain to people now, so we've got two telescopes going now, which is great. So we've got Stuart's view now, although his live software has crashed on him. He's got another way to pull in the view right now. So this is live. This is an image of the Great Globular Cluster in Hercules, M13.
And just as another little fun fact, there's over 250,000 stars in that cluster, so it's incredible. Can you sort of zoom in? Can you actually zoom in your image on the cluster itself, Stuart?
Not sure how to do that on this software. I can try.
Yeah, like maybe just.
Yeah. Let me give me a minute. I'll try using Webcam Max.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna pump them out as images, you can probably pull them in another way. So.
And let's try something here real quick while he's doing that.
Well, let me go to M27 since I'm behind the 8-ball here.
Well, look, but this is such a beautiful image. I don't want to lose this.
Okay. I'll try. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah. Well, you can play around with it for a second, but that's gorgeous.
Hey, Scott, do you also have M13 pulled up, or was that one of the other ones in your... I can't tell, it's all the thumbnail.
Yeah, I've got it up.
Okay, yeah, because I pulled it up in a big super zoom on mine just to kind of show that, bug splatter on the windshield of stars.
Brian was asking if we could see the Hourglass Nebula. Yeah, I think you had the Hourglass before, Stuart, right?
Yeah, you just told me not to image it because I'm doing it.
Okay, well then if we're done with M13, although I'd love to see Gary's view of M13, but sure, why don't we move on then? Why don't you go to the Hourglass?
Okay.
You got this spiffy new mount.
I've got the 1 minute to the Swan now.
This is a 1 minute on the Swan? Okay, well this is beautiful. Look at that.
Yeah, I love you can see all the little tendrils and lines in this area.
Yeah, that's really
again,
lovely.
One of the problems with astrophoto is this stuff is very faint in this area, but there's some very bright stars here, so it's totally blown out. If I move the image a little bit, you can see how I start to get more detail in here. But we don't see.
It's just so bright in that central region, right?
Right. It's just such a range of light that it's hard to get it all at once. So I can do that, or I can bring it back to here, and then we can start seeing just really how big this thing is. I'll stretch it way out, and you'll see the...
Yeah. It's the same problem that we have with the Orion Nebula, although the Orion's just even worse because it's just even more extreme.
Exactly. And so you can see that it really extends all of this whole area out around here.
Hey, so Gary, have you ever tried doing anything like HDR with something like this, where the inside of that main cluster is really bright, but everything else is dark? If you do like 3 or 4 different exposures at different brightness and try stacking them together using like HDR software.
I have not yet, but that's on my agenda. In fact, I just got some HDR software that I want to start playing with.
You know, I really have, on that note, I've really wondered what the HDR tools would do in the context of astrophotography, just because I've seen so many brilliant photos with the HDR techniques. I'm not even sure what that would do with astrophotos.
I would expect pretty good results. I downloaded the preview version of Photomatics.
I've got Photomatics, yeah. If you want to send me a bunch of images, Gary, of like different brightnesses, I can try and produce an HDR out of it.
Okay. Well, I was going to go back to some of my old ones because a lot of the stuff I imaged at 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, and so on. So I have some data back there I'm going to play with.
Yeah, so that's a really good question.
Okay, do you see it?
No, we see you again. Avery Rutledge says, can we see Pleiades? So we can't see Pleiades. It's down right now. It's something that we see in the wintertime, early spring, but unfortunately Pleiades is down right now. So that's the kind of object that that will look really good, I think, in what Stuart's doing right now. So, oh, here we go. There it is.
And like we were talking about earlier about Andromeda, that's another object that, you know, if you're, you know, looking in the skies around 4 o'clock in the morning, you can catch it low in the eastern sky along with Jupiter and Venus.
Yeah, so you really want to get up early in the morning for some of the planets and some of those objects.
This is a 30-second. I can try to do a longer one.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's beautiful, though. You can see the red around the edges of this. I don't know if this is translating well for people outside inside the hangout. If people watching this can see the hourglass and see the reds on the edges of it. It's really nice. And so the cool thing about this is a color. So what's happening is Stuart's got his Canon DSLR connected up to his telescope, and he's just doing a live view of what the camera is seeing. While what Gary's doing is he's using a black and white image, like a black and white camera. So it's designed for a much higher resolution to really show off those differences in brightness. While what Stuart is doing is it's more designed for the color objects. So it's sort of a neat contrast. I really like it. And so, I mean, Stuart's the first one to actually attempt doing some of these faint deep sky objects with a color camera, and I'm really impressed.
Well, Chris did it 2 weeks ago, so credit where credit is due. I'm piggybacking off of him.
That's right. He keeps saying that I kept pushing him and told him to do it till he broke his camera. So
I was going to say, I think this is the new software that is that you're talking about. It lets you take a DSLR, make a webcam out of it. I think Chris was talking about it earlier, right?
Yeah, we've been playing around with that with everybody, but this one isn't.
No,
right?
No, it's not. I first tried using Backyard EOS, and it crashed on me twice. So I went over to the Canon utility. This is just the Canon software, which only lets me do 30-second exposures. I need to figure out how to make it do longer exposures.
Yeah, I wasn't having very much good luck with Backyard EOS either. It was kind of a little sketchy, and like we were talking about earlier today, or earlier in the hangout, sometimes the frustration with doing astrophotography is that we're often fighting the equipment and fighting the software, and not so much looking at the stars.
I mean, Backyard EOS is actually, worked for me awesome yesterday, and for some reason, and it may not just be the program. My whole computer's been buggy today, so it may just be my computer.
It's because we're live. That's why it's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
So Abel, was it Voiku wants to know see a galaxy? Yeah, we can definitely see a galaxy.
Okay, I'll get it.
You want to do that? You want to do M51? And Gary, you've got was that the Trifid?
This is the Lagoon.
The Lagoon, okay.
The 10-second, and I'm doing a 60-second right now. So we'll have a little better look at it in about 30 seconds.
I saw a comment, Govind Sankar. He's asking for the Crab Nebula, and no, that's not going to be up this time.
Yeah. Everyone's asking us for all the objects we were showing 4 months ago.
Just 8 more months, guys.
8 more months.
Come back around.
Yeah, stick around. We'll get to them. They come around in cycles. You know, they'll be around. They'll be around long after we are.
So what size telescopes has everyone got?
Mine's a 14-inch reflector.
Mine's a 5-inch refractor.
Mine's a 90 millimeter Mac cast something. It's one of those hybrid where it's reflecting and refracting.
There you go. So a 14-inch reflector, like one of the Celestron ones. There you go.
Right there.
And then we've got and Stuart's got it's like a 5-inch refractor.
Right.
Yeah. The software that Scott's using is Stellarium. Emerald One wanted to know, and I highly recommend everybody get it.
Yes, it's great.
Yeah, so people can see. So it's good. So people can actually see the. We're able to see red in the hourglass. That's great. Getting a lot of background noise there, Ray. Yeah, just mute right now.
Mute.
There you go. You've been muted. So what's the? So that's the lagoon, right?
Yeah, that's about the best full contrast where I'm not blowing anything out. And you can
That's
see
beautiful.
the dark lanes in there.
Where's that, Scott?
Right near where we were before.
Pull it right here for you.
All right.
Then if I, again, add more brightness, you can see that this is actually very large. All of this area in here is all part of that nebula.
Yeah. So here we are again in Sagittarius. And so if you saw right now, it's really just above Sagittarius, so it's even lower down now.
And this guy's going to be very similar to what Gary has. I'm maybe 15 miles away from Gary, so it's going to be pretty close to where he's at.
Yeah. So somebody wanted to see a spiral galaxy. So we're going to try and show you M51, which is probably the best spiral galaxy you can see. Can you get M51 as well, Gary, or is it like completely on a different side of the sky for you?
I think I can. I may have to move the scope around a little bit to find it. But,
Yeah.
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be framing for me right now, but let me try again.
Okay. Because that was my favorite of the test images you were giving us. So I need to beg. Don't make me beg. And
Oh, come on, Fraser, you can beg. It's M51. Come on, it's like one of everybody's favorite.
Yeah, do you want to get a view of M51 too while we're at it?
So I don't know if you can tell on mine. I pointed my scope at M56, which is supposed to be a globular cluster. I can see maybe half a dozen stars of the million stars in there on my screen.
Yeah,
it looks like on the Hangout I can see like 3.
So Gary's telescope is moving around to get a view of M51, which is located in. I love that.
In Muteville, that's where it is.
Yeah.
The sound of a telescope slewing mine is particularly loud as well. I don't know what model or what manufacturer his is, but mine being a Celestron mount, it's pretty much, as loud as can be.
He's got a fancy new mount that he just bought. It's a pretty skooka mount. So someone just asked for the moon. And we can't do the moon tonight. We had a beautiful view of the moon last week, but the moon now is just getting it's rising later and later every day, and this is the problem. So we had a beautiful view of the moon last week, and now we're going to probably have about another 2 weeks of no moon, and then we should get back to seeing a really nice moon. Let's see, check it out. Where are we now? So I don't know if people can see this. So we're there. There. Okay. So that's where the moon's at right now.
And I can actually show you on the horizon. I can remove the ground and show
You can
you guys where
remove the
moon.
ground, yeah.
Yes. So here's the horizon here in California, and if I go and remove the ground, this is where the moon is right now. So it's still got a little bit of time to come.
Right. So the moon is under the ground, yeah. So
right.
Now our hope is Mark, and if we do stick around for another hour or so, then we might get a view of the moon from his point of view. I don't know. You can shift.
The moon is above the horizon here, but it's behind several very tall trees. Like I said, I probably got about another hour or two before it's above the trees, and I can start seeing it.
Yeah. So, and that's why you had such a great view of it last time, but no luck this week.
It'll come around again. It always does.
Seems like it's about once a month.
Yeah, every 29 days.
Eli Mendez just asked for the Horsehead, and no, it's not going to be up right now.
Same problem. So the Horsehead is in the constellation of Orion, and Orion is one of those winter constellations. So don't worry, you do this a while, and you'll start to realize sort of the positions of all of the objects in the night sky and what things we can see at different times. Could a telescope be connected to this hangout? So Richard wants to know if a telescope could be connected to this hangout using mobile internet access. Absolutely. In fact, Scott, you did that for our transit of Venus, right?
Yeah, for both the transit of Venus and the eclipse. And it's not fun. I'm going to let you know it's not fun at all. But you can do it.
There's also a budget.
I have Alberio.
You have Alberio?
Yeah, do you see it?
Yep.
Oh, nice. I was going to say real quick, there was somebody who, their article's been floating around the internet a little bit. They did a budget astrophotography rig with an old cell phone and a Galileo scope. Basically took some angle iron and rigged the camera and something like that. You could use your cellular network to broadcast it, or you could use Wi-Fi. And I think altogether their rig, I forget what they said the cell phone cost them, years back. But there's some inexpensive ways of doing it, but of course results may vary depending on the equipment you have.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if I've also seen a Kickstarter for a clamp that fits. It's a mount on the iPhone, and then it lets you clamp it onto your eyepiece of your telescope, like clamps right onto the eyepiece, and it's quite nice actually. And you could then use your iPhone and have it just join the Hangout directly.
Right.
And so that's a real possible way to do this as well. But I think based
Orion
on
Steady Pix at school.
Yeah,
Orion Steady Pix.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really, of all the experimentation that we've done so far, I think the best solution is Gary's telescope.
Of course.
Or Peter's telescope.
Right.
I think having a 20-inch plane wave is the way to go. But on if you've already got a DSLR, I really think that seems to be the one that we've been really happiest with, like a Canon or a Nikon, probably a Canon. There's more software for that. A T3i, something like that, with a mount onto your telescope is a really nice view because it lets you see the really live stuff. It lets you see the dark sky stuff. It lets you do astrophotography. I would say a lot of the guys here are pretty happy with that result.
Yeah, I'm very happy with mine. I was fiddling around for about a year with CCDs and just kind of took my CCD imager out Office Space style, and then back in December, my wife and I got a Rebel T1i for Christmas, and within a day or two, that was on my telescope and started taking beautiful, breathtaking images of Orion and quite a number of other things, and actually started getting images off of my DSLR that were actually worth taking the time to learn how to process and stack and do all that, whereas before, all my previous CCD images weren't even worth bothering with. So yeah, definitely agree with what you've said, Fraser, that that type of imaging is great. It works really well.
And you don't need any lenses for it because you just hook it directly up to the camera. So you can get an old T1i body without any lenses. They can be had for a couple $100 off eBay or Craigslist.
Well, just to say on the case of mine, with my 8-inch being a fast scope, only an f4, I did have to get a coma corrector. Otherwise, my images got a little kind of flaky out at the fringe edges. But once I put the coma corrector on there, I've got beautiful flat photos throughout the entire field of view.
So this is M51. So people wanted a spiral galaxy, and so this is M51.
Which is actually 2 spiral galaxies.
Which is 2 spiral galaxies.
That is a 60-second exposure. I'm 75 seconds into 120-second exposure here, so
okay.
A 2-minute one in a second.
Yeah, that's really great. And it's in a completely different region of the sky right now.
And do you see mine?
I found it.
No, we're seeing you again.
So the other thing that somebody in my astronomy club did was with his digital camera, he built what's called a barn door mount, where it's basically just 2 pieces of wood on a hinge, and there's a timer and a little screw that just kind of gradually, as the sky rotates, moves it. So you mount your camera up to the top, and that'll track pretty good, and you can get some very good long exposures of things like the Milky Way and stuff like that. And you can make some really cool images with some. He literally built it out of plywood and some nuts and bolts he had laying around.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, now we see it, Stuart. That's great. It's a little. I think the problem is the way you're trying to show it with the. I can see the spiral nature there, running in the image viewer, but. I can see the spiral there. Is there a way to zoom in somehow on the spiral itself, Stuart? Is that what that slider on the right-hand side does? I really want to slide that slider.
Yeah, I'm over here trying to play with it too. Like, that's not mine.
Yeah. I think we all are. We're like, come on, let's get some more detail on this.
Too much.
There we go. Oh, look at that.
That looks
there
great.
It is. Oh, that's beautiful. So there we go. So there's Gary's view, which is just fantastic. Is this the 2-minute one, Gary?
Yeah, that's 2-minute.
That's beautiful. And then we've got Stuart's view. And how long was your exposure, Stuart?
This was 2 minutes too.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And you can see that I don't see Gary's view, but I can imagine what it looks like. I'm sure his is much brighter.
Well, yours, you've got a lot of background noise in the images.
Yeah, that's because his camera's cooled and mine is not.
Right. You're getting all this background noise.
Yeah, going back to part of our earlier topic about using the DSLRs, that is one downside, is when you have a purpose-built CCD, they have built-in coolers, and you can also, they're a lot less noisy, so you don't have to do as much. I mean, you still have to process the images, but you don't have to do as much, whereas with consumer-level DSLRs, the CCDs can be a little noisier, and of course they're not actively cooled. One of the things that I've noticed is that if I turn off my live view, it drastically reduces the amount of noise in the images that I take with the live view off.
Malcolm Scrimger says, I hope you keep that image. There seems to be an extra star in M51. So, Gary, you just discovered a supernova.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know that I think so, but
I don't know the stars in M51 that well, but.
But wasn't M51 the one that had the supernova last year?
No,
that was M95.
Oh, okay.
M51
M59
had it last June. I took a stick image of it. Yeah.
Yeah, earlier this year, like in March, I think was the one that was in M95.
Eli Mendez wants to know how long until we can get the Hubble Space Telescope in the live virtual star party. That's, that would be the dream. We actually got pretty close to something like that. Ray Sanders has access to the which observatory were you playing around at last week?
Oh, Mount Wilson.
Mount Wilson Observatory, that's right, yeah. So hopefully we can try and hook them to their telescopes at some point.
Well, and one of the things that was very interesting is in the night that we were using it again, we had 2 nights on it, the second night, just as we had opened up the dome and got the telescope pointed, we're actually trying to start off looking at Saturn. The ISS flew by, and everybody was like, "Ah!" because everyone wanted to be that person looking through the eyepiece when it cruised through on a 60-inch telescope, but it would have just been a blur. And I tried to take so many images with my DSLR. We actually had it was kind of one of those almost redneck engineering things, because they take custom-built 4-inch eyepieces. So we're going to a 4-piece to a 2-inch, and then to the T-ring. It was kind of
yeah.
I think we might have actually, if it wasn't a historical telescope, there might have been consideration for some duct tape.
And I mean, Peter is probably the closest thing we've got to the Hubble Space Telescope here with his 20-inch plane wave, which is a pretty big telescope. It's a lovely. Have you got that picture of you with your baby, Peter? I always like to show that picture.
Yeah,
off.
I have. I'm just checking the last image of M51 that I took in the Star Party, and I think you'd be right to have a look at that image, Gary, because
Okay.
I don't know. I've got some pretty good detail here, and I don't see anything that bright in it.
You're talking
would be
about
awesome.
I'll just.
this one right here?
Yeah.
Do you want to show yours, Peter?
Oh, well, I'm just trying to check the date of. Let me just check. Hang on.
Well, and while you're checking there, Peter, the one from a few months ago was M95. We were doing a hangout, Gary and I think a few other, when it went supernova. It was right by Mars, so it was being blinded out really bad.
Yeah, let me just.
I was going to say, if somebody wants to. Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Stuart just got a view of the Ring Nebula. Now you're going to need to embiggen this one.
Yeah. I'm not sure how to do it in this particular program, and let me figure it out.
But you did it with the other one.
Fraser, I cannot tell a lie. I cheated. I used last night's image.
What? This is last night's
Sorry.
image. All right. See if you can bring this one's live, though, right?
Oh, well.
This might be last
yes,
night's
this one's
image,
live.
too. I can't believe anything you tell me anymore. Let's go back to So can you explain, Ray? I mean, people are kind of like saying, oh, there's an extra star in M51, and obviously that's an extremely unlikely event. But what are they getting at here?
In M51, an extra star, I wasn't quite following earlier when that was being discussed. Sorry, 5 million different things going on in different telescopes.
Okay. Well, then let me see if I can channel Pamela here. So what happens is that astronomers are looking for extra stars in galaxies around, as they sort of look at the different galaxies. They do surveys of all the galaxies, and they know which ones are going to have stars nearby them. And if they see like an extra star in one of those galaxies, then that's a possibility there's been a supernova in that galaxy. And there's a certain kind of supernova that's really important that astronomers are looking for. It's called the Type 1A supernova, which are the ones they're the collapsing white dwarfs, right? Yeah. So you get a very special kind of a supernova where a white dwarf star is siphoning material off of a companion star. And it gets to a certain amount of material that it's siphoned off of this companion star, and it detonates it as a supernova. Now, the thing that's really important about that is the fact that these stars will always explode with the exact amount of mass on them, like 1.4 times the mass of the sun, I think.
Right,
so
that's
they
the
detonate as a supernova.
limit.
Yeah, and they've hit the Chandrasekhar limit. So they explode as a supernova. And what's great is then astronomers use this as a way to calibrate distance in the universe. So they'll look at one of these objects, and they'll say, okay, that means that galaxy is whatever, 100 million light years away or whatever, and they'll be able to determine the distance to all of these these galaxies. And this was the way that astronomers actually discovered dark energy, which is this mysterious force that's accelerating the expansion of the universe. So they looked at all these distant galaxies. They were able to see these Type 1a supernova, and they found that the galaxies, the further they were away, they were actually moving faster away from us than people were expecting. And that's how they realized that, in fact, the expansion of the universe is accelerating, not sort of slowing down the way they expected. So, but any kind of supernova that they find are actually really exciting because it just tells us about how stars die, and so it's really important. So
Sure.
I guess this is what people said. Hopefully, maybe if we're lucky, there is a new star in M51. Although
I thought that there was a new one that you were specifically asking about, not the actual process. For everybody's information, I pulled up an image I did. It's not one of the better images, but it was a quick one that I could pull up of M95. On my screen to the left, you'll see that smaller star. That's the actual supernova itself, and then in the center is the actual center of the galaxy. So that's one of the things that like you were saying, Fraser, when a supernova goes off, they can be so bright as to rival the center of their host galaxy. And yeah, I mean, what was once a star, winds up being this brilliant blob of light or a pinpoint or a new star, like you're saying. And then there's a flurry of telegrams, as they still call them, of people saying, "Hey, we've seen something," and then people do. They look back through their images, over the past few weeks, the past few months, and do kind of a comparison, just like we do it nowadays with computer software. But back in the old days, in the early 1900s, 1930s, with the search for Pluto, take two photographic plates and blink them back and forth and look for something that moves. We can do the same thing with images and go, oh yeah, okay, that is definitely a supernova candidate in that galaxy.
So I don't see an extra star in there, so I'm going to say no. We've not discovered a new supernova.
I pulled in a picture I took several months ago, longer exposure, and I put it up here beside the one that's live, and I can't pick out anything that's different.
No.
Yeah,
Stuart.
that's just.
Stuart had a beautiful view of the Ring Nebula, but he dropped.
I'll ping him, see what's going on. I know he's having issues with his Wi-Fi for a second.
Yeah. Oh well.
And,
yeah.
He's completely offline right now.
Yeah, he dropped his Wi-Fi range booster right before the hangout. So, again, has not been our best night technically.
So just remember, a bad night of astronomy beats a good night of doing just about anything else.
Hey, that can be said for a lot of hobbies. I've seen that bumper sticker before where it's like, a bad day of fishing is better than a good day at the office. I totally agree. I would, there's things that we can do with our telescopes. Even when we're clouded out, we can, for those of us with reflectors, we can work on our collimation. We can sort out a new piece of software. We can, do flats. There's stuff that we can do that we probably would like to get out of the way on those nights that the weather's not too good, instead of, sitting at the office shuffling paperwork.
So what have you got here, Gary? Oh, good. Stuart's back.
Lining up M81 and M82, because we got a request last week and I didn't get to them.
Okay. We didn't get to your Ring Nebula there, Stuart, so if you can bring it back in, that would be...
It should be there now. Is it embiggened, or are you seeing me?
I'm seeing you.
We're seeing you.
Okay.
There we go. Now this is live, or this is the image that you...
Sorry, okay, that was the... I only cheated once, okay?
I don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah, no, this is live, and...
Okay. Oh, we lost him again!
I think he did that one on purpose.
Did he? All right.
Yeah, it had to have been.
Can you show people what the Ring Nebula is there,
yeah.
Scott? Yeah.
Pull it in. Get it centered on. There
Yeah.
we go.
Yeah.
Enhance.
That's her.
Enhance. Yeah. So I think, I mean, if you look what Stuart had, it's beautiful. So why don't you pull back out and we can sort of give people a place to look, because this is one of my favorites. It's back to you, Stuart. There it is. Okay.
There. Okay, so what I was saying is I'm getting a lot of noise and a little bit of star tracking, but I'm very pleased with it because you can see some color in it.
Yeah, look at that.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, that is fantastic. That is one of my favorite objects. Look at the
Color
color.
range is spectacular.
That's
And it's
amazing.
true color. It's amazing how small it is, too.
And so what is it, Ray?
The Ring Nebula?
Yeah.
It's a planetary nebula.
Yeah, that's basically the leftover, when you got a planetary nebula, that's basically where you have a red giant star, gets to the end of its life and goes into a little tiny white dwarf, and I believe with certain telescopes you actually can resolve the central star, but you've basically got where the outer layers have been blown off over time, and they're radiating, and then just, yeah, it's interesting because everybody calls it planetary nebula, and it really has little to do with planets, because chances are most of the planets have been, if there were any planets orbiting that star, they've probably been destroyed in the process of that star swelling up to a red giant. So
Can you zoom back in again, Stuart? It was much. I know it was a little blurry. It's a little pixelated when it's bigger like that, but it's really nice. Lost it. Yeah.
There.
What causes those different colors?
well, those are different elements that are ionized. You've got oxygen, you've got hydrogen. I'd have to double check. I don't know the entire chemistry of the Ring Nebula, but I know looking at it, there's probably some nitrogen along with hydrogen and oxygen.
And I believe the name of planetary nebulae is, I believe, with Herschel when he discovered Uranus, and he saw these objects out there that looked very similar to the colors of Uranus. And it kind of stuck, you know, the name. We're still calling it today, though it has nothing to do with planets, but it still had that same color composition that we can see now. I mean, you're looking through, you're seeing the blues and the greens that we can see now if we're able to zoom into Uranus, which I might be able to on Stellarium. But as you're seeing there, there is, you know, some really rich color coming through. And even though now we know it's nothing, you know, towards it, it's actually the death of a star, it's shrinking down, and the gravity that was holding everything together is actually being overpowered by the energy, the thermal energy just blowing all out. It's sloughing off that matter. And you know, and you're seeing just the different elements pushing out.
And I just did double check, and that is oxygen and hydrogen and some nitrogen. That's the different colors that you're looking at.
That is just fantastic, Stuart. That is a real treat. I know you've been having a really hard time there, so that's just fantastic. Thank you so much.
No problem.
And so, Gary, I think we'll close off on what you've got, Gary. Some people wanted galaxies. You've got 2 in one image here now.
Yep, and I'm just about finished with a 2-minute exposure. That's a 60-second, 1-minute exposure. And that one actually has a satellite going through it.
Oh, I see the line there.
See
Okay.
it right there. But this is M81 and M82.
I'll go to Scott here for a second here. He's pinpointed them in the Big Dipper. So the M51 was just below the handle of the Dipper, and this one is actually just sort of above and to the right of the, so there's the Big Dipper there. And so M51 was just below Alcade, and these are above, was it Dubhe? How do you say that? Dubhe?
I always say doobie, but
Doobie?
that might cause trouble with certain people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. Look at that. Look at the beautiful spiral arms there.
So there's M81 and there's M82 right there.
Yeah, they're just right beside each other.
And I believe they're gravitationally bound as well.
Yeah, it's 82 is the smaller one, and a color picture of that with a long exposure is gorgeous because it just got blowing out the center of red.
M82, I can try to get it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, Stuart.
Oh, I see. So you
Operative word,
it's got Solarium view.
Yeah. It's a Solarium, and that's a 2-minute from mine.
That's great. I like yours better.
It's more real.
It's more real, yeah.
Well, when we talk about Stuart cheating, I'm the ultimate cheater right now. So
yeah.
we can say Stuart's cheating all day long, but I am the ultimate cheater in this.
Yeah, you are simulating the sky.
Oh, I don't know. I think I could cheat with some of my pictures from Mount Wilson if we want to do that.
Yeah, the Hubble Space Telescope. No, I mean I think we've had a chance to use some pretty cool telescopes in this, and really we want to try and make this as real and live as possible. And I know that, maybe the pictures aren't as good as they could be, but I think at the same time, we want to really try and give people an idea of what it's like to have your own telescope. What kinds of views can you get? What are the trials and tribulations? And then what's the kind of, the fun that we have while we're yakking about space as well. So I think, we could just go and start showing off pictures from the Hubble Space Telescope and just make this a completely different show. But this is real astronomy as a hobby. So.
But now I realize I've lost total credibility with you guys. But the picture that I showed yesterday was actually just a straight 2-minute shot, just as I would have seen it. I did no processing on it whatsoever, and so it would have been if I were able to have gotten it tonight. For whatever reason, I wasn't able to frame it tonight. But that's just what you can get just by sticking a camera on a scope that has reasonably good tracking, and taking a 2-minute picture. Just a regular camera, nothing fancy like Gary's.
Yeah.
Well, and as Scott was saying, the little board with the little motor on it. A few months ago, Sky and Telescope had an article on making one of those. And literally taking a DSLR and putting it on one of those with a regular lens and pointing it at the sky. The only hard part is figuring out how to focus it, because you don't have anything real good to look through a focus. But you can get some fantastic results.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing you would do a dark site.
Yeah, all the old-timer astronomers that I know, that's just how, before go-to and tracking mounts were really common, that's how a lot of people would do that. They take their SLR, that actually used film, and put it on their barn door tracker and do images, and then hope that A, their focus was good, and B, that when they developed it, it turned out. No, that's that's one of those things that a lot of people are starting to be turned on to. Older ways of doing astronomy. We might use some newer tools like DSLRs, or we might use webcams and that type of stuff. But I think it's really cool that people are kind of being turned back on to some of the older ways of doing things and getting out in their garage and using hand tools and saws, and instead of just going to Amazon or eBay and put some work into it and get something that they have a little pride in.
Yeah.
And it's surprisingly easy. You can get started on a shoestring and just play, as long as you don't get serious about it. As long as it doesn't drive you crazy, it's wonderful. But trying to find one. I actually did one.
Are you too far gone now, Gary?
Oh, I've been gone forever.
Yeah. I think
Nobody
Peter too.
can see me. I'm off in the sky somewhere.
The man's got his own observatory in his backyard. I think he's been going at it for a while.
If people have seen that cool video that Google did of our star party, Gary's the one in the star party. You can see him pulling off his dome and his telescope there. Yeah. Yeah.
So Gary uses a dome?
Yeah, it's a Skyshed pod.
Oh, okay. Yeah, mine's a 10 by 20 roll-off roof, so, huffing that roof, there's no motors on it or anything, so sometimes that's a little bit of work, which is why I usually only open it when I've got absolutely pristine skies, because nothing's more frustrating than moving, 1,200 pounds of roof by yourself, and then the clouds roll in, or you're trying to dodge between holes between clouds, like I'd done a few months back, where I was kind of trying to, I think the term that everybody's called is sucker holes, because they make a sucker out of you when you think you can actually image to them.
Yeah, no, I love it, and I've got I'm shooting low. I just open the dome if I've got a little hand. What am I trying to say? A little hand lift that I connect to the dome and just take the whole thing off. But that's been a great thing. I've loved having that, and they're really not very expensive.
What have you done here, Stuart? What have you got?
I just got blank sky when I tried to get M82, so I just went back to the Hercules and took a 1 minute and zoomed it up for you, because you like things in big.
That's nice. Yeah, I do. That's wonderful. Look at that. Well, why don't we wrap it up on this beautiful view of M13? You can really see the stars there. It's great.
Real quick, Fraser. I popped this up, and I took this in my backyard with a Canon 20DA. I did have that Astronomix filter, and this is with I think a 70 millimeter lens. And if you remember, we were talking last week about the North American Nebula.
Yep.
Here's North America. Here's the Pelican. You get a great field of view, and this was just playing. So just taking a camera out and playing with it with a lens, you can get some pretty nice things.
Yeah, that's beautiful. All right, well, thanks everybody. Thanks to Gary and Mark and Stuart for sharing your view this week. I really, really appreciate it, guys. And thanks to Peter for stopping by. I know you were totally clouded out. So we'll try again next week. And thanks to Ray and Scott for bringing the astronomy knowledge and showing everything on Stellarium. We really appreciate it. Thanks everybody watching. I will queue up an event for next week. The next thing we're going to be doing will probably be recording Astronomy Cast tomorrow. We're still trying to catch up a little on some of our shows. We're a little behind, so we'll be doing that at noon Pacific. I'll queue up that event as well. So thanks everybody, and we will see you all next week.
Good night.
Good night.
Great night.